Good evening, everyone.
Hey, the microphone.
Thank you all for coming. We will get some chairs out for those folks that need chairs.
Yeah.
And before we begin, and this is for our Zoom watchers, I'd just like to say again, thank you all for participating, or all you coming, and whether you're here in person or virtual. For our Zoom, I'm not that good with microphones.
Right into it.
Right in the way where you're trying to read. And I've been instructed to speak directly into the microphone. If any of you were listening Monday to the Public Safety Commission meeting, I was listening at home, a little under the weather, and I couldn't hear some of the people speak in the microphone. So because of me complaining about it, I've got to suffer for this. So anyway, for our Zoom participants, please remember you need to select either English or Chinese at the bottom of your screen for best audio quality. If you would like to submit a burglary safety related question over Zoom, please use the question and answer feature, Q&A. Someone will convey your question to us when we get to the Q&A at the end. If you would like to view the presentation in Chinese, a PDF is available in the chat section of Zoom. You can open it and follow along. Thank you to our Zoom interpreter, Yan Nan, for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate you being here. This is extremely important. So Robert Peel, if you're familiar with him, was a founder of modern policing in metropolitan London. And he came up with the Peel principles. And one of the principles, and not only just going to college, but going through the police academy and throughout my career, that stood out among all others was the one where he said, the people are the police and the police are the people. And why that is important is we, as your guardians, the police officers here, we can't do our job without your help. And your help means giving us suggestions on how we should police within our community, giving us advice on what's important in your community, and then also working with us on how to prevent crime and how to solve crime. So tonight we're going to talk about several things. We're going to give you an overview. I'm going to talk very little. So we're going to give you an overview of what's going on, what happened in 2022. A very brief bit of information about what occurred on Oak Lane. And the reason we're giving you not a lot of information is on purpose. It's an active investigation. There was information in there, quite a bit of information based upon our detective's investigation, and our lead detective is here, Jesse Ruiz. And through multiple interviews with witnesses, the victims, and gathering information from the neighborhood and other sources, that takes a little time to go through it. We're developing different clues. We're going to start chasing, we've been chasing those clues, and we're going to continue to chase the clues and solve that crime. It's extremely important to me. Personally, it's extremely important to me as your police chief, and it's extremely important to each and every one of these officers here and every officer who's working tonight and every other night to protect you. So I'd like to introduce everybody. First of all, on my immediate right, Commander Aaron Blondet. Aaron is a commanding officer that oversees several functions, including our detectives. Next to him is Sergeant Naved Qureshi. Naved is our detective officer in charge. Next is Commander Tim Tebbets. Tim is our patrol commanding officer and traffic commanding officer. Next, there's Jesse. He's one of our detectives. He handles property crimes. Next is Jeremy Bestpitch. He's the sergeant that does a whole lot of stuff, but one of his primary extra duties is coordinating our neighborhood watch program. Next is Leroy Abington. Leroy, besides being the city's employee of the year for 2022, is our newest, yeah, go ahead and clap. Leroy is our motor officer for right now. Another one training. And he is also a neighborhood watch coordinator for a subsection of the city. So he's here, and then standing outside, they'll poke their heads in. Officer Pena, and I always want to call him Chris. Sandoval. Yeah, Officer Sandoval. It's every time I see him, I think, I don't know why. He doesn't have a name. It's Chris. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. No, it's not just. So anyway, they're all here. They're both also part of the neighborhood watch coordination group. We have 5 total. Omar handles the commercial side of things for our businesses. So we're going to be talking about several things. Some of it's going to be statistical, so we have an understanding of what a crime is and how it relates to other places in our region. And then we're going to talk about how we track it, how we use stats, how we do some of our enforcement. We're going to talk about burglaries in particular. How are the suspects getting in? What are they using to get in? We're going to talk about what kind of property is being taken and why, probably reasons why, mostly because it's easy to get rid of. We're going to talk about security systems, alarms, cameras, safes, how to use them properly, and reasons why you need to use them. And it's more about what we're doing to make sure that you're safe, what you can do to help us make everyone safe. When I first got here, we had a meeting. I talked about burglary crime. And during that time, I said, we need to harden our targets. We need to make sure we have alarms and cameras, and make sure we lock our doors and lock our car doors and take valuables out of view. We need to make sure that we do it, our neighbors do it, and then their neighbors do it, the people across the street from them do it. And if everyone does it, I'm going to drive all the crime to South Pasadena. So when I said it, probably just like tonight, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, because I do like Chief Selinsky and the people in South Pasadena, but I don't want the crime here. I would love to be able to brag at my county chiefs meetings that we don't have crime here, or we have such low crime. And that's because we're all working as a team. And then I will give you some contact information and how to stay informed. So with that, I don't want to waste your time. We want to get right to it. So Commander Blondin.
So first of all, make sure everyone's here to be okay. Thank you for being here. The fact that we have so many people here tonight obviously is a good sign that everybody cares. I think we have quite a few people on Zoom. So again, that's a good sign that we have a lot of participation, a lot of community members that care and want to participate and help us out in what we have going on. As Chief mentioned, first thing we're going to talk about, and I think everyone has probably pretty much the slides that were handed out, as well as what's going to appear behind us. Some statistical information for 2022, and keep in mind this doesn't obviously take into account anything that's occurred this year. Our residential burglaries for 2022 versus 2021 were 58 versus 36. What that equates to is basically a 60%, 61% increase from one year to the previous. Something to note with that is that we also looked at the COVID years, which were 2020 and going back to 2019. And what we found with 2019 for pre-COVID compared to this last year for 2022 is there's actually a decrease. So it's probably back on the uptick now, but it's kind of the equivalent or level with 2019 numbers pre-COVID, which were actually 3% higher than 2022. Our grand theft and petty larceny cases compared to last year actually dropped, as you can see, approximately 20%. And our commercial burglaries actually increased by 25%. The number is actually 10 versus 8, which is only 2, but still a 25% increase. One of the things that we're going to bring up, and Chief mentioned, we're going to talk about later, are our security systems, our alarms, our cameras, lighting, all that kind of stuff. But one small thing that I want to point out about alarms is that if you do have one, what we need you to do is that if you're willing to, you need to contact your provider And if the provider is willing to do so, we need you to let them know that you want the call to come to us first. And what I mean by that is I don't want a delay, because that delay is what impacts our ability to get to your homes, your businesses, et cetera, in a timely manner and make a difference and actually catch these people in the act, whether they're inside the location or outside the location. We can make a difference by getting there in a timely manner. So what we're asking and what we've asked in the past is that if you're willing to do so, again, tell your provider, your alarm provider, that you're willing to allow that first call to come to us to police dispatch, and the second call to you. As we've mentioned before, we don't care about alarm calls that are not legit and legit alarm call. We're okay going out to these false alarm calls. It's fine with us. I know that some people are apprehensive. They're worried about the repeats. They're worried about, fines and charges and all that stuff. And we've already let the community know that that's not something to be worried about. What we want to worry about, or we want you focused on, is our response. Okay, so don't be concerned with us coming out, and don't be concerned with false alarms. So that's okay with it. The next slide is a small reflection of some of the stuff that we're doing in-house with regard to heat maps. Some of the things that we've been talking about internally and that we've been presenting to the community, most recently in public safety, is related to our crime suppression and what we're going to do going forward. One of the things that we're doing is we're producing maps, and the maps internally to our patrol division. The maps will let our patrol people know where the crimes are occurring. In some cases, there's a predictive policing model that allows them to know where it might happen next. That's not a perfect science. There's algorithms and there's things that work. This computer program to kind of tell us where they might occur. And we try to focus our efforts on those areas. So example that you see here is similar to what we would produce for our officers, that shows you where it's most concentrated. Now, there's also a community crime map. And by show of hands, has anybody seen the community crime map, either in the past or recently? Just one. I think it's Ray. Is it Ray? Well, thank you for raising your hand, Ray. If you haven't heard about it, you didn't raise your hand, we do have a community crime map. As Ray knows, there's been issues with it in the past, and a lot of it has to do with our computer-aided dispatch. And what that means is it's the computer program that we use to dispatch our call. Okay. When we changed our vendors for that, and we got a new vendor, you basically start the process over. And local agencies have had to do that very same thing. Local as Pasadena. Pasadena had different type of crime map. They recently changed their computer-aided dispatch program, and they're currently looking for a vendor to produce a crime map. So what I want you to know is that it's there, but why it might have taken so long, Ray knows, because we were working with Ray and communicating back and forth, is that there's a lot of back-end work that goes on, where we have to produce and make sure that the stuff coming out is accurate. So the system gets fed by what we put into it. And so what it spits out on this map is whatever we gave it. With that being said, I want you to know, when you go on this community crime map, if you look at it on our website, the San Marino Police Department website, you go down about halfway down the page, you'll see a crime map, right? There's a link and it'll take you to the community crime map, which will look similar to this. On that, it has a function to zoom in and out, just like most maps, Google and so on. When you do that, if you zoom out, it shows you not only San Marino, but our local cities next to us, for example, Temple Sheriff's. You will produce numbers that are coming from that agency as well. So I want you to know that, because if you look at it and you see that the number says like 50, and you're like, why does San Marino have 50 cases in the first 2 months or something like that? Focus on how the map is looking and what you're looking at, because Arcadia, we brought into that. They're using the same program actually. Temple Sheriff's is using it. So unfortunately, you're going to see those. If you zoom in and you keep it to the area, like an area, if you know the borders of San Marino, you'll get the correct number. So I just want you to know that going into it, because I think those questions will come up once you look at it. It can be confusing. Go ahead.
Yeah, for our reference, can you point to Lacey Park?
And this one's a little difficult to tell, but it looks like right here. Yeah, pretty much you said Garfield is actually on the west side. And it jogs around, so it's kind of hard to say. It's not a hard straight line. That's the problem with most cities. On the east side, it is San Gabriel. The north side, we have California. South side, we have like Longden, Lorraine, that area. So it's obviously not perfect. So that just gives you a general idea. And most people know the Hill or the northwest part of the city, but if you generally look at that, you'll get a very good idea. And then there are maps that are available online that do show you borders of the city, if that helps further. So those are some of the main things that I want you to know, that essentially the process works like this. If you file a report today for a crime that occurs right now, if you pull up the map right now, obviously your crime will not appear on that map, just so everybody knows. What happens is the officer takes that report, they come and get all the information from you, they type it up, typically the same shift, they submit it to their supervisor, supervisor reviews it, supervisor pushes it to our records division that proofreads it and makes sure that all the data is correct. Once they validate it, then it would be going and getting pushed through the system to the map. So there are steps to the process. Just want you to know that going into it, and that maybe by the next day, it may still not appear on the map. So it may not be up to the second. So those are just some things to know when you're looking at the map. I'd like to pass it off to Sergeant Qureshi. Again, he was introduced by the chief. He is a detective sergeant for our detective bureau, and he's going to go speak to you a little bit about residence burglary.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Commander Lonnie said, my name is Detective Sergeant Ed Qureshi. I currently have three detectives that work under me. One is Jesse that's here tonight. He's going to talk a little bit more about property crimes. Jesse is really well versed in what's going on. Talk about crimes.
Yeah, right into it.
Is that better?
Yes.
All right. So I'll introduce myself again. My name is Detective Ed Qureshi. I'm Sergeant for the Detective Bureau. We have three detectives that work on multiple types of cases. Tonight, Detective Ruiz is here. He works on our property crimes, so he's very well versed in the trends and what's going on with those crimes. And he's going to talk a little bit about some specific enforcement that we're doing, as well as other crimes that are going on and those trends. I want to talk about the residential burglaries. As you all know, they're spiking a little bit. Some of the stats that we have here kind of explain what's going on. So as you can see on the slide here, the point of entries are areas where the suspects come in egress and they leave ingress, where they come into your home and those access points. A lot of these crimes, what we noticed, 41% of them are occurring with rear door entry. The reason why they do rear door entries or rear sliders and type of things are because of vulnerabilities. A lot of times we see low lighting. A lot of camera systems are focused on the front yards of residents, so you don't see a lot of cameras in the backyards. And also the lighting is low in the backyard, as well as other factors. Some of these doors, a lot of people focus on their front doors being, have deadbolts and they're secured. Sometimes they have, security cameras pointing right out the door, which is great, as well as they should have more in the backyard. Sometimes we tend to forget about the backyard. A lot of these suspects kind of know that. So they'll come from, south side, north side of these houses and neighbors. And when they enter, they're just going to go to your side yard. So you won't catch them on your front camera. It's also good to have those front cameras, but we encourage having them more in the rear or in the side yard. As you can see, the side doors or windows, about 10% of our burglaries are on the sides of the house. That could be windows or doors, the bathrooms, leading into the residence. So again, low light areas, the trees, those types of bushes or things that kind of shade the area, make it easier for the suspects to access. Another new stat that we put up here is second story stat. This has kind of gone up last year. There is a group that's going around, and it's a national issue called South American Theft Group. It's SATG group, or the acronym. Basically, a lot of the South American countries are letting people on temporary visas to come into the United States, committing crimes all over the U.S. Their tactic is going through second story because they know that most second story don't have motion sensors, alarms, those types of things on your second story. So that it's very vulnerable for them to, your second story, because there's not a lot of alarms, not a lot of motion sensors. Therefore, they can come through the second story, access your home. We're not going to get alarm activation because of those, sensors. So it's a good thing to possibly have motion sensors upstairs, or think about, do you have sliders in the master bedroom, or do you have other access points on your second story that might allow the suspects to make entry. Some of these burglaries, about 19, are the unlocked doors or front doors that are locked. Those are just, they're part of these stats here. Again, a lot of those homes, they don't have cameras, they don't have alarms. So that's why we're here tonight, to encourage those things as far as, protecting your home, making sure your residence is well lit, has cameras, and everything that will protect you. Next slide. A little bit of the general items that are taken are listed here. See currency, jewelry, electronics, handbags, and other high-end valuables. There's a lot more items that are taken for homes. These are just the general items. As Chief always mentions to everybody, hide it, lock it, keep it. A lot of times we get a little bit, comfortable in our homes. I do it myself. We all get a little comfortable and leave money somewhere, leave your wallet somewhere. But it's very, very important. We see a lot of homes with currency that's just, in the home somewhere. It might be in the bedroom or in a nightstand or wherever it may be. But these suspects know that they have time before we get there to search your house, look at those areas. So protect those items, your jewelry, your electronics. We encourage everybody to keep lists of your devices, serial numbers. And the reason why we say that is because we have a property system, it's a national system, and we can input those serial numbers or identifying numbers into that database. So if any officer finds any property anywhere in the United States and they run it, it will say that that belongs to so-and-so and is related to this crime. So they can call us, or if it's internally in our city, we can, do a little more investigation on that. So it's important to keep those things in a safe. With safes, you want to make sure they're in proper areas, they're locked and in areas that are not going to be easily removed by suspects. That's pretty much that I have, and we're going to talk about some more stuff, but first,
Daylight hours versus nighttime hours.
The question was for those on Zoom, do we have the numbers for the crimes being committed in daylight hours versus night hours?
not a specific number, but generally you're referring it,
Microphone.
not the actual specific numbers, but I would say a majority of them occur overnight. Usually after sunset, all goes back to detection and, being dark and the lighting, those types of things, but generally at night.
The question was if the homes are occupied or not.
Yeah, generally they're unoccupied. We noticed last year's stats where a lot of homes were vacant. And a lot of homes are generally people aren't home. So for whatever reason, they either know people aren't home or it's just, a target because they know that there's not like proper signs for alarms or lighting, those types of things. So they kind of case the area and they'll pick those homes. But like I said, majority of them have been unoccupied.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Commander Tebbets. As Chief said, I run the patrol section and the traffic section. I'm going to go over a few ideas on how to be a deterrent or, items you can do to protect yourself. Number one thing is alarms. As you saw in the slide already came up, 40%. And as you saw, there's a lot of houses that do not have alarms. I think it was 40%. And then another 22% had alarms but didn't use them. That's a huge deterrent, is having that alarm go off. They hear it. Usually it's going to scare them off. When you do get alarms, as Detective Qureshi stated, second stories don't usually have the alarm systems on. That's very important nowadays. Speak with the reputable alarm tech, have them do everything possible. All doors and windows, motion sensors, have a panic alarm in case you are home, that those go directly to us, and make sure you're testing them regularly. We have had a few where the alarms they thought were working, and then when the window was broken or the back door was broken, it didn't activate. So knowing your system is very important. Just knowing how to operate it, knowing how to shut it off, and knowing what it's doing if it does go off. There's so many technologies out there now where they'll go to your cell phone, they'll go, to your computers, they'll alert you immediately if something's going on inside your house. The next one's going to be the same thing with cameras. A lot of the residents here have like 2 or 3 cameras and they're all facing front. As Detective Qureshi stated, there's really nothing on the sides, nothing in the backyards. They should be surrounding your property at all access points, including the backyards. As he said, they're hopping fences, they're going from yard to yard, and they're not getting captured. The higher resolution for the cameras, as mentioned on here, The higher resolutions means you can zoom in on. So if you have a car that passes by at 2 a.m, if you have like a small 2 megapixel camera, you can't zoom in to get a plate, a car, very good description of the vehicle. The higher megapixels like the 5, and I know we have a few alarm people here. Some of them you could zoom in up into like inches and get a plate number from 200 feet away. That's very detrimental to our investigation because it gives us information to go on for a lead. A lot of the cameras now, as same with the alarms, they have motion sensors. Me at my house personally, I have almost 20 cameras in my house. I have some that go to a hard drive, and then I have some that go to the cloud. That's very important because if it goes to a hard drive, somebody could take the hard drive if it's not secured somewhere. By having dual, I get the motion sensor immediately, and I have a higher resolution camera to pick it up on the hard drive. So either way, I'm going to have something to afford the law enforcement in my house. And very important, again, know your system. Whenever we do door knocks, if it's, even a petty theft, it could be a gardening theft, could be, a package theft. Your neighbor 4 doors down may have a good enough camera that we have information to go on. But a lot of times we'll go out to these houses and the detectives will do a follow-up and they'll be like, oh, I got to call the alarm tech. I don't know how to use it. So now that delays it by days until you get the alarm tech to pull down your video to be able to provide to us. Real-time information is detrimental. The quicker we get it, the quicker we get it out to other local law enforcements and hopefully prevent somebody else from being victimized. Safes. And I don't know if Freshy has the numbers. A lot of people don't use safes. They'll have thousands upon thousands of dollars of jewelry, handbags, watches, just sitting on top of their dresser. That's easy and quick pickings. If you have a safe, anything you're not using that day or going to use later that day, put it away. It takes you 10 seconds to protect yourself. Me and my house, I have 4 safes throughout the house. So not everything's in one safe. So if they take this one, okay, these 3 are still secured, hopefully. So by dividing it, it just makes yourself a less victimized, whether it be firearms, jewelry, whatever the case may be. But make sure anything you have inside or inside your residence that you want secured, place it in the safe. Don't leave it out for them to be able to grab super quick. And then with safes, make sure they're in inconspicuous areas. Don't leave them like in your garage area out in the open. Have them covered up. There's plenty of wall-mounted safes. There's dresser safes that go underneath that they'll dig a small hole and they'll cement it in. Those things are so hard to get out. They're not going to take the time to do it. They're going to be in and out in a matter of 2.5, 3 minutes. They're not going to worry about what's in the safe now. So they're just ways to protect yourself. And like Detective Qureshi was saying about the burglaries in vacant homes, don't post stuff on social media while you're gone. Don't post you're in Hawaii. That's how they get this information. You may not be friends with them online, but you may have a friend who's a friend of somebody who likes your comment. Now they know you're gone. So that's how some of these houses are vacant. They know when you're there and when you're not there. It's not on here, but another one is lighting. Lighting is very good at nighttime. If most of these are happening at night, they're creeping around the bushes, they're entering your driveway, going up the side. Most people do not have lighting around here. Lighting is very essential as a deterrent because they're going to get spotlighted up. Hopefully there's a camera there as well. So now we have a good description. So it's just more tools to help yourself not be victimized. Any questions for me? Yes.
Ever, when he was here for criminal cases, some of the burglaries, people have been arrested for burglaries that came in court, have been former employees of some of the security places. And so they know how to disconnect things. And have you had that experience? Is that still going on?
I don't know that happened recently in our city.
Real quickly, the question was, have we experienced any ex-security company employees being part of burglaries here in San Marino?
In fact, there was one here in San Marino that the family doesn't live here anymore. That was on Oxford Road. No, it was on San Marino Avenue.
I didn't hear that last one.
there was one that the person was arrested who had worked for a security place, but this was like 20 years ago.
I would say a lot of rules have changed and a lot of hiring procedures have changed since, over the last, 20 years.
Yeah.
I don't know of any here that have happened recently, but as I said, things have changed on how they can go about hiring people. When we do background checks, they do background checks. I mean, ours is a little more extensive, but it has changed, very dramatically over the years. Any other questions I can answer? Yeah.
Family. Older couple, who find out that in their home. Is that only one that's happened like that?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
one moment for Zoom. The question was, the burglary that was in the paper, is this the only time it's happened like that here?
And the answer is yes, that is the only one that's happened here. And I know that'll be addressed. I'm not sure. Talking about that here. Yes. If they have the time, they're gonna go through every room.
Commander,
Oh,
sorry. The question was, is there any room in the home that burglars would not go into or don't?
and the answer is if they have time, they'll go through everything. Every room, if they have the time. If you have an alarm going off or something of that nature, of course, that's gonna limit how much time. But they do primarily focus on bedrooms and things where the valuables are gonna be at. Yes.
Would the home being tied up is classified as a property crime?
Yeah.
It's ground against, yeah.
Yeah, the question was that surprised that the burglary that happened is classified as a property crime.
Yes. Because, people were injured. And still,
That is definitely a crime against person.
I'll address that. There were several crimes that occurred. Two main crimes were burglary. They entered a dwelling, commit crime. And there was also a crime against a person by physically forcing someone to do something, which was surrender property. So the burglary is a property crime. The robbery is a crime against a person. The robbery is a violent crime. The burglary is not categorized in this state as a violent crime, even when it's put together with a robbery. But so this, we're investigating as a serious crime against person. It doesn't diminish it if we refer to it as a burglary. It should be referred all the time as a robbery, because that's what it was. They took something with force or fear. And by fear, they scared and traumatized the victim. And by force, not just grabbing them, moving around, but also using a handgun. So trust us, we're not diminishing the crime.
Yes, sir.
So the fact that a lot of forms of ceremony are older and have these California basement access to the main dwelling. There's also access points from the basement to a crawl space is accessible from the outside of the dwelling. So do you see on a rare occasion where the point of entry has been through the crawl space into the basement up into the house?
Ooh, okay, I'm gonna summarize that one. The question was, with San Marino having older homes in the community, they're often California basements that you can access the home through them, through crawl spaces and other areas. Do you see that happening here in San Marino?
As of right now, we have none that have gone through the basement. So next, I'm going to introduce Detective Jesse Ruiz.
Thank you, Tyler. I did want to just piggyback on the last slide, if we can go back. I had some key points that I want to bring up and share with Commander Tevitz. I didn't get the opportunity, but I'll share them with you. And I'm glad that you brought up the basement questions. And that is a good thing to remember when you're setting up an alarm system for your home, to remember if you have a basement with windows or doors, to also activate those points of your property. When we go to these burglary calls, we always do find that a lot of basement doors are unlocked, even though they have the capability to be locked. But always remember to keep them locked in case one day that happens to be the point of entry. It'll delay them to enter to the main property. Nowadays, they have glass break sensors. So we see this a lot with commercial buildings. If there's a glass break, we'll get an alarm call and it'll tell us exactly which window or which side of the property the alarm activation is from. So again, if you're reassessing or thinking of getting a new alarm system, that's a good thing to look for. Using the alarm system, even if you're home, use it, activate it. If you're going to be home or asleep at the end of the day, turn it on. A lot of people, I'm guilty of it myself at home. We sometimes forget to set it, even though we know we're not going to be going out for the day. But to start making a good habit of turning it on and using it more often. Camera wise, with the homes here in San Marino, beautiful landscaping, but placement is very important. Recently, I've been reviewing some security footage, and we always find that large hedges or tree branches are in the way. So, keep that in mind. If where you're placing them, that the greenery will eventually grow and maybe take over those areas. So, not necessarily meaning that you have to relocate cameras, but maintain the vegetation to keep the cameras in good working order and maintenance, cleaning up, especially after it rains or we have, pretty bad weather, getting out there and giving them a good clean so that they're nice and visible on your displays. Another good camera with nowadays technology would be a license plate reader camera. We've seen a few throughout the city with a few residents, but now they're more available to the public. They're a little bit on the pricier end, but the quality is one of the best. They're designed to read vehicle license plates, and that will help our investigations go a lot further, a lot faster, if we have more than just a vehicle description. If we can find an actual license plate on a suspect vehicle, that gets us, moving our investigation a lot faster. With that,
The driveway or
those are best to be pointed, the front of the property.
Those were the surveillance cameras, correct? They're best to be pointed, license plate readers, they're best to be pointed where?
The license plate readers usually typically go towards the front of the property, facing the driveway or angled to the roadway. So they can be able to capture a front license plate or a rear license plate.
All right. One, two more. That one?
All right, so here are some statistics with surveillance cameras, what we're finding when we're out there doing our investigations. So we're finding that homes with active cameras is about 35%. Homes with no cameras at all, which is a pretty high number, 52%. Homes with cameras that are not working or need to be serviced, it's about 10%, and the remaining are unknown. We're also finding these numbers for a good large amount of houses don't have cameras when we're out there canvassing, whether it's your neighbors. Let's say, there was an incident on your property and we're canvassing the neighborhood up and down the street and we're unable to locate any working cameras. So if your neighbor couldn't make it tonight, make sure to share this information with them just to help each other out and get and watch each other's backs with good working cameras. Alarm systems, we have homes with activated alarms, 33%. Homes with alarm not activated, 22. And that goes back to us making a good habit of turning our alarm systems on when we're home and we're away. Homes with no alarms is 40%, which is a pretty high number. The remaining were unknown or unable to provide by the resident. A few houses were unoccupied for sale. that was a very low number. Yes.
Status of the city's camera registration program, where you register your cameras with the city, so the police know neighbors have cameras.
The question was, what's the status of the city's camera registration program? That where residents can register their cameras with the police department.
At the moment, we didn't get anywhere with that topic, but it's going to be revisited for a future time. Actions taken, intelligence sharing with regional task force, intelligence sharing with local detective bureau working group, undercover operations, saturation details, public notification via social media, citywide website, and other media groups. Basically, to sum that up, we're meeting with local police departments, whether it's via Zoom, email, telephone calls. For example, with the Oak Lane incident, I was bombarded with telephone calls from other outside agencies, asking if there's any way that they can help, what information we can share with them to see if they had anything similar, or any information about either suspect information, vehicle information, to help each other out. For example, today we met with the San Gabriel Valley intelligence group and shared information about everything that's going on with the residential burglary, catalytic converter thefts, and all the trending crimes that are happening in our city. Saturation details, we already worked a few. We're having people come in on their time off and work overtime and do extra patrols of all the areas that have been targeted recently, based on what you saw earlier on the crime map. And then the other topic that is not up there, but I wanted to talk about is also our block cameras, which is the license plate reader cameras. Those have been pretty useful and effective in the sense that we are able to flag vehicles, for example, that have been used in a burglary or another crime in the neighboring city. That information gets shared with us through flyers that are put out by their agency. What I've been doing is getting the license plate of those suspect vehicles, entering them in the system. So if that vehicle ever passes through our city and it's captured on camera, we can go look out for that vehicle, stop it, and then do our investigation or contact that police department and let them know, hey, we have the vehicle from your burglary, in case they want to pursue with interviews of the driver or occupants of the vehicle. A couple examples where I was involved in a couple traffic stops with using the use of flock cameras. There was an incident that happened in November of last year where we had a package theft on Virginia. The female drove into the victim's vehicle, driveway, removed the package. They went to another property in the city and took another package. And luckily, both residences had decent cameras. The first location had a camera where we were able to see a license plate. We verified that the vehicle was in the city using the flock cameras. We entered the vehicle for a traffic stop in case it came through our city, which it did a couple weeks later. We found the vehicle, we stopped it, interviewed the driver, and they confessed to the crimes by identifying the vehicle, and we had a pretty good arrest. So we are on it. Like I said, it's a good asset for our department, especially being a small city and having the most cameras, in my opinion, by square miles. Any questions?
We're gonna wait for questions until the end. We want to get through this and be able to give you all the.
Our Zoom participants are feeling a little left out because we haven't said any of their questions yet, so we'll get there.
Here's our subject questions for the next day.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sergeant Jeremy Bestfitch, one of our patrol sergeants. I oversee our neighborhood watch program. So I'm going to talk to you about little things about community support.
Oh, sorry.
First thing is timely reporting. And what we mean by that is our biggest thing is if you see something, say something. So if something doesn't look right, you just notice a package get delivered and somebody else go up and take that package, contact the police department. The quicker that we're notified, the quicker we can respond. And the more likely that we are to actually catch somebody in the act or just after the act occurred. Updating and using personal security. I know that we've talked a lot about it. Alarms, cameras, make sure that you are using locks, deadbolts, going back to a lot of older homes in the city. They do have some of that older hardware with the doors. If you're able to upgrade to newer technology, newer deadbolts, safes, again, make sure that you are using them properly. Don't just take a safe and put it in a room. Make sure that it's bolted to the floor, bolted to the wall. Makes it a lot harder for somebody to take a safe out. We've had it multiple times where safes are actually just completely removed from the house. You see it on the camera, the suspects dragging the safe to the vehicle. So make sure that we're properly securing it, making sure that we're locking up our valuables. If it's extremely valuable, you're not wearing jewelry all the time, your expensive purses, your valuables, things that you don't want to lose, make sure you're locking it up in the safe. Lighting, that's a big thing. I know we like it kind of dark outside, peaceful, but you want to make your home look lived in. You want somebody to come up to the house and not know if somebody's in there versus seeing a dark house and taking the chance that nobody's in there. If they see a home that looks like somebody's in there, they're more likely to pass your house and go to the next darker house. Neighborhood watch. How many of you in here are part of our neighborhood watch program? So I would like to have seen all of your hands raised. That's the biggest thing is you are our eyes and ears out in the street. We have 3, 4, 5 officers working at a time, and they may be investigating another call, going to a fire department assist. We can't see everything. As much as we would love to, we can't. That's where you guys come in. Getting to know your neighbors, know their vehicles that you normally see there. Knowing if they're out of town. The best thing to do is find a neighbor next door. If you haven't introduced yourself, go and introduce yourself. Say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be gone for the next couple of days. Can you keep an eye on the property? When somebody specifically asks you to look on their property, you feel a little bit more like you have a responsibility to look at it. Because what happens if something happens? You're going to feel guilty that they asked me. Why didn't I just check on the property? So utilize that. For those of you that didn't raise your hand, you can go to the city's website, cityofsanmarino.org/neighborhood watch. On there is a form for you to fill out that'll get sent to our neighborhood watch program, me, and then we'll set you up, let you know if there's an active neighborhood watch program in your area or how we can go about setting one up for you. So again, neighborhood watch under the police department, or you can email neighborhoodwatch@smpd.us. The next thing is staying informed and safety considerations. Our social media. How many of you have started following our social media? So for those of you that do use social media, we are utilizing that a lot more than we have previously. If you can follow our social media, Instagram and Facebook. House check. I know a lot of our residents do use the house check. For those of you that don't know about our house check or house watch, it is a program that the department offers. You call us up, let us know the days that you're going to be gone, the days that you're going to have a pool cleaner, housekeeper, gardener, anybody that's checking on the property or vehicles that you're leaving at the property. And an officer or one of our civilian cadets will go, as long as they're able to, pending call volume, go and actually walk your property, make sure that everything looks like it's supposed to. There's no damaged windows, there's no unlocked doors. And there's a $5 fee per day that is charged after you're done. You come back from vacation, so you will get notified about that after. But if we don't walk the property, you're not going to get charged for it. So don't think that you're paying for a service that you're not going to get. We walk the property, we notate every day that we've done it, and if we're not able to, it's usually a call volume where we're tied up with other priority calls that we can't actually get to the house. but it's about 99% that we are going to go to your house every day. Property versus life. Don't risk your life for a piece of property. Property is replaceable. You aren't. So as much as it's not fun to lose your property or have somebody take your property, think of your safety and the safety of your family first. Remember, it's property. We can replace it. Password security. What we're talking about with this is for like our camera systems. As it's been stated earlier, there's many times we go to follow up and we don't remember our password. So make sure that it's a password that you're going to understand, remember, and put it in a safe place that you can access it in the event that we do have to review your camera footage. Safety awareness, being aware of your surroundings and any suspicious activity. See if anybody's kind of just wandering around your property. If you see somebody that you don't notice or that you don't know kind of hanging around your property, keep on driving by. Give us a call. We'll go and check it out for you. That's what we're here for. We love to go and talk to people, find out exactly what they're doing. And firearms. For those of you that own firearms, make sure that you're storing them properly in a safe. The best place is to have them in a safe, because the worst thing to happen is your firearm is stolen and now that firearm is used in another crime. So we're trying to prevent that, make sure that it's properly stored away from minors and law. Again, we've introduced Officer Abington, Officer Sandoval, or Christopher, and Officer Pena. They're three of our liaisons. Once you sign up, you will be assigned a liaison. It's kind of broken up 4 sections of the city plus our business district. So once you submit an interest to us, we will get you in contact with the liaison that oversees your area. We're going to do questions at the end. I want to, we'll see if you have a flyer or the PowerPoint. If you don't, we can make sure you have one. I'm not going to go through many of these things. Information on how to get in touch with us is on there. At the bottom on the notifications page, it talks about the LA Crime Stoppers. We became part of that organization. It's here within the Los Angeles County. Great organization, works with every agency in LA County. The work they do, and you can make anonymous tips or information on web, through an email, through the phone, through a text. So please, if you think you know something about a crime, use that. It's very important. The information on contact information is there. There may be 2 people in the room that don't have my cell phone. It's on there. Please use it. Everybody does. And we're going to allow time for answering questions. We may edit some of the questions for the sake of time because we're at 5 minutes to 7. And so with that, questions.
Yes.
Thank you for putting in your cards.
These questions are related to the burglary incident. Was the security system activated at the time of the burglary?
We're not going to talk about that because it's an ongoing investigation.
Okay. Okay. This one is from Zoom. And there was a crime near their home and they checked their surveillance cameras to see if there's any video recording, and there weren't for the days surrounding the incident. And they're wondering if there is signal jammers that people can use to prevent surveillance cameras from recording.
Jamming the internet and Wi-Fi is a complex thing. It's done. It can be done. When I was with LAPD, we had the capability of doing that in a certain tactical situation. Other police agencies do. Just about every federal law enforcement agency has it. The military has it. But the guy who went down to the new Radio Shack trying to find one of those, you can't get it. It doesn't exist. About the only way to jam it is to disconnect it, cut the wire, or do something from a the Wi-Fi provider itself. But you can't jam Wi-Fi signal.
Next question, will we be having another Ring camera discount purchasing event so more residents can purchase the devices?
No, we won't. Ring does not do that anymore. They faced a lot of people questioning the reasons why and the issue on privacy, so they don't provide that service.
What makes your house a target?
Leaving the door unlocked, leaving the windows open, not having an alarm, not or having lots of bushes and trees that you can't see. Sure, it's nice, it's private, and they're 6, 8 feet tall, and you can't see in the yard. Windows open. Well, let me see if I can do that. And when my voice gives out, I'll let you know. It's kids. But everything we said you to do, and you don't do it, you're a target. It's a frustrating thing. Is we want like our privacy. We like tall gates. We like big fences. We like not to have our lights on. We don't want to put on lights outside because it lights up the bedroom or some other reason. But doing stuff to protect yourself, that little inconvenience is going to save you. It's going to save your stuff. I'm the one who says, hey, it's just stuff. But and doing the other things we talk about.
Do license plate readers in the city red flag cars that come into the city with no license plates?
No. Because license plate readers are looking for license plates themselves. And as we all know with vehicles, when you purchase a vehicle, we now get paper plates. And you no longer see the paper plate about Joe's car sales. That doesn't exist anymore. Every car has to have a paper plate. So when a car doesn't have a plate, our officers in the field can make it stop based upon probable cause or reasonable suspicion. And the cameras, just because of privacy, just because it doesn't have a license plate, there could be a lot of different reasons why. So it doesn't work that way with the flock camera.
Still on license plates, are front license plates required?
Yes. Yes.
Let's see where to go. So many questions. This one is about ADUs being built and that they're close to your neighbors some of the times. Are there any ideas about potential vulnerabilities with those units being close to your neighbors?
I've never really thought about it, but it could be. I mean, it could gain access based upon a fence, a wall, and go over a roof to other parts of your property. Yeah, I'll have to talk to Director Figueroa about that. That's a good question.
The next one is related to the safety plan and is asking that instead of some of the measures in there, is it possible to make funds available to have extra patrols going around because more visibility of police officers?
We're doing that now, but with the saturation patrols. Also, we're just starting. We've done it kind of as an experiment for a night or two. The officers will drive up and down the streets with their lights on, red and blue lights on, rather than being off. With the new cars, they're all black. The light bar is very thin and you can't see it very well, which is a good thing for people who are speeding or other things, or you need to sneak up on somebody. But there's been experiments in my other life at another agency. We used to do it every now and then. And it's just another option that we can do. So we occasionally will do it.
Next question. If I have a registered firearm in my home, when should I use them during a home burglary if I am home?
You know, That is a exceptionally good question. For a couple different reasons. When you use a firearm and you shoot somebody else, it is one of the most horrific things that's going to happen to you in your life. It is going to change your life. And use of a firearm should only be done when your life is at such risk that there's nothing else left to do. I don't want to discourage it, but in most cases, a firearm in the house results in two terrible things. One, person commits suicide with that firearm. Number two, you actually shoot a loved one. So the responsibility of that firearm is exceptional. Also, we have an ordinance in the city. The state of California has a law. You have to keep that firearm locked if you have children in your home. And it's a good practice to always lock your firearm. When my older sons were young, my firearms were always locked up. As soon as I got home, I locked them in a locked, secured case that couldn't be moved. I had a bat. I was in much better shape. And I kept a club by the door. Right now, I've got a Kenyan war club by the front door. I got two Dobermans besides me usually sleeping on. And my wife, who's a police officer now, we lock up our guns. But they're available because you can buy a safe that uses biometrics, that has a small combination that you can remember. But I got to tell you, when you're looking at someone pointing a gun at you, trying to remember 1, 2, 3, 4 is one of the hardest things you can imagine, let alone raising your firearm, getting a sight picture, squeezing the trigger and firing a round that strikes and kills the bad guy. So, and most times you're not going to know they're there. Go back to Richard Ramirez, if you've seen that. Ramirez stood over his victims for many minutes, if not hours, before he chose to wake them up and eventually kill them. So think about using a firearm when it's appropriate, but you can use one to defend your life and to defend the life of them.
What is the procedure to put on a public light to monitor street in case of crimes? Maybe to put that.
I think that's a community,
Public Works?
development or public works question. City manager, can you help me with the answer? We'll look at it later.
Email the city manager.
Acting city manager Rueda said, email the city manager's office. We will figure out how to do that. Okay. This one's about the catalytic converter thefts that have been happening.
Just come on down.
Let's see. No specific question really, but just please address them because they're prevalent in your area. Sorry, go ahead.
We did also have a question on Zoom about catalytic converters, more specific to, are there any statistics you can provide for catalytic converter theft in San Marino?
The number one car that keeps getting hit over and over is going to be the Toyota Prius. That's the most popular vehicle that is being targeted in our city. As far as location wise, it's been pretty scattered around. We did have about 3 so far this year, but it's all over. And it's one of those opportunity crimes where these people are driving down the street. They see a vehicle that they like, sometimes a Toyota Prius. It's in a spot where they can easily access underneath the vehicle, whether it's just by the way it's parked, or they can easily use a jack to lift up the vehicle. It takes about 10 to 30 seconds to get underneath that the catalytic converter, and they're gone in the wind. So there is a spike recently, but again, we're comparing numbers to kind of like pre-COVID, and I'm assuming these guys needed money for the holidays, so we did see a little bit of spike during the holiday season. Luckily, you know, they did slow down the last couple weeks of January.
As far as catalytic converter tests as well, there was recently an event in Pasadena. I'm not sure if anyone knows about it, but it was at the Toyota dealership where they were helping people subscribe or put numbers on the catalytic converter. That helps for recovery, but there's other methods to help protect it where you weld a basket or different type of cages around the catalytic converter to help prevent it from being taken in the first place, or at least delay them from getting it off the vehicle. Like Jesse mentioned, there are specific vehicles that are rich in content that's why they focus on that vehicle. It's valuable metals. And the Toyota Prius does have some of the higher end metals that are in there that they want. So typically when they take it off, it damages the catalytic converter pretty much beyond being used. And they're selling it for the contents. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, Commander, next question is from Zoom. Is there a security company that SMPD recommends?
We don't recommend. We want you to pick what you feel is the best. Go out there and do your research. Get multiple bids, just like you would if you were getting a contractor to work on your house. I would never recommend a contractor. And the reason for that is that we want them to do a good job, but in the event that something goes wrong, you're going to immediately come back to me and say, Commander Blonde, you just recommended the worst contractor ever. So just find a reputable company, have them come out, give you bids, see what the bid looks like and what kind of work they do, and go by reputation and so on, and make the best decision for you and your family.
Next question also from Zoom. Is our city getting any additional license plate readers installed at key intersections to track criminals in stolen vehicles?
So with regard to the flock cameras, if that was what we're referring to, we're looking into that. We're constantly evaluating where we have them and how productive they are. There's always the option to move the ones that we have, and the council has been very supportive with getting additional ones. So we'll be considering the possibility of getting more in the future. But as mentioned by Detective Ruiz, we're currently in a really good situation with what we have, but we'll look to the future to see what we get.
This question is referring to cameras. Are cameras only used for prosecution? What can we do for deterrence if they're not a deterrent, or are they a deterrent?
I think we're talking about home cameras, and yeah, they are a deterrent. So we use them as dual purpose. We want to deter crime, but we also want to detect it if it happens. So the first thing is if you have them, we want to deter it. So like they mentioned, if you have an alarm and the alarm sound, they're less likely to spend time in your house, or they're more likely to actually just go on to another house. So your alarm might trigger, but there may not have actually been an injury, physical injury. There's pie marks or whatever else. So there's the deterrence portion. Detection and the criminal portion, we do need that, because a lot of times when we go to court, the first question the DA asks the investigators when they're presented to the court is, what do you have evidence-wise to show that they were on the property? And what does it show them doing on the property? It gets very extensive as far as what they want to see. They want that video evidence. So I have to tell you that when it comes to the actual prosecution, the successful prosecution of a case, your guys' cameras are critical to that. It really is.
Next question is a little bit related to deterrence. Are screaming loud children and dogs a deterrent for a possible home report?
It's a deterrent. Yeah, I would say the dogs are. Any dog person is willing to, I mean, there's also tactics, right? And you take food, there's ways to distract them, and maybe they look to see where they're at in the house. But kids in the house means that there's someone in the house. So like the chief and others have mentioned, that when it looks occupied, there's people in there, they're very, very much less likely to actually even try to get into the house in the first place. Most of the houses that we're finding that people go into, even the ones where we've made arrests recently, where they were occupied houses, it's because they probably thought no one was in there, or it looked like an easy target, as in no one was home. So anything you have to make it look like your home is important. I'm not ignoring the question. I just want to make sure we stay.
So I do want to just give the Zoom participants time to answer some of their questions, since everyone here can stay after and still comment. Do you guys want to cut this off at a certain time?
How about 2 more Zoom questions?
2 more Zoom questions. Do you want me to just ask in order?
Go ahead.
All right, in order. Can you speak a little bit about your maybe the work that you do with the jurisdictions surrounding us, how proactive they are, and how working together with them helps keep San Marino safe?
I could do that, or I mean, Detective Ruiz has done the majority of that, as well as Detective Sergeant Bresci, but essentially what happens is this, there's a couple different things. There's the agency, as in, like, let's just say Alhambra or St. Gabriel, the police department, but there's also task force. The task force are special units that are developed to go out and do certain kind of work, whether it be robbery task force, burglary task force, that type of stuff. So what we do is basically, when we have an incident that occurs, Sergeant Bresci, for example, has made good contact, as well as Detective Ruiz. They'll make contact with those individuals from those task forces and from those detective groups and let them know what we have. That's typically what helps, is the information sharing from the residents, the information sharing from us to other agencies is really what is critical in making a difference and figuring out what happened with the crime. So that's kind of the process of the way it goes. Obviously, our crime bulletins that we make, we send them out to other agencies and vice versa. Just had mentioned how we use the plates, and we'll run the plates and flag it if it comes into our city. That's successful as well. Their tactics, their vehicles, their weapons, if we recover a weapon, that type of thing. So the coordination with other agencies is critical.
And last question from Zoom. Can you give an update on gardening equipment thefts for anyone who has gardeners in the area?
Actually, I have a good one. I'd actually like Jesse to address this one. Not to be details, but maybe just what we've had and kind of that we're working on right now.
Regards to gardening theft, they're still happening. And again, thanks to flood cameras, we're working on a case where this particular suspect used the same vehicle. The first time it was captured on our flood camera. Unfortunately, we weren't able, or the witness wasn't able to read the license plate, but our cameras did. Suspect comes back at a separate time and day, strikes again. This time, the victim was able to capture partial license plate, and we ran it through our flock system, lift up the registered owner, and thanks to that information, we are working on a case to hopefully make an arrest pretty soon. We're working with the victim to come and take a look at what we call a six-pack to see if he can identify the suspect and hopefully make an arrest.
Sure, go ahead.
On the beginning at the end of the. So the license plate is in front and the back, not on the side. So for residents, we want to take the license plate as really hard. And then we publish this news, and then no crime people will come to our city. You know, every street has two camera, and that all our residents can pay for.
One moment, Chief. I'm gonna.
Instead of taking them to probably just have to.
Speaking to the city council, I think they would love that idea.
Would you like to summarize that?
Oh, yeah.
Would you like me to?
No,
The general question was if the city can place cameras at both ends of a street, of every street, so that the license plates of any car going down any street would be read, so that, and then publish that news to the larger community, so people would know not to come to San Marino, try and burglarize.
It's a great question. This is a great theory. It's a great idea. The flock cameras themselves are roughly $3,000 for each year that we lease them, and it's a 2-year lease. We have one family that has donated money for a flock camera. It's possible if you'd like to donate the money for, so $6,000 for 2 years, we can do that. One of the things that we do, and Commander Blonde, Aaron talked about that, was we strategically place cameras based upon travel routes, flow of traffic, traffic circulation. Sorry, I had to say. And patterns of traffic. So it kind of creates a safety web. And then we reevaluate it based upon crime data and move the cameras. Having a camera at either end of a street is a good idea. Other countries, there are countries with lots and lots and lots of cameras. Crime still occurs. The issue of solving crime is not just having cameras. It is having technology for the officers to work. It is having the laws that will ensure there's prosecution of criminal acts. It's having a deterrence of punishment to keep people from doing it. But I go back to what I said from the very beginning. People are the police, and the police are the people. What we talked about today, about deterrences of having alarm systems, of cameras, of knowing your neighbors. Jeremy Best pitches neighborhood watch, getting to know each other. When you have those annual, I wish you would have them quarterly, block parties where everyone comes out of their house and you get together and you get to know everybody. And you know who's not supposed to be where. You already know who your postman is, postal carrier. You know who the UPS guy or Amazon guy, who the pool guy is, who the gardeners are. So when you see something that doesn't look right, you say something. Those are the best ways to do it. So our partnership with you, that is the best thing besides just cameras. But cameras do help. If we were to publish information in a newspaper, that may or may not work. If we're involved in the active investigation, we're not going to publish anything. We'll be very careful in what we give out as we proceed in the investigation, so not to cause us undue harm or irreparable ability to conduct an investigation and reach a successful prosecution. So there's a lot more involved, but you've hit on a great idea. You've hit on a great part of teamwork and partnership, and I really do appreciate it. Sir.
The question was, in your professional opinion, do you have do you have enough officers to successfully protect the city, or do you need additional resources to have more officers?
You just put me in two of the worst things for police. One, if I'm standing on a mic, I got to stop talking. And number two, you got to say, hey, you want more people? Oh, yeah. But what's important is we are looking at that. We are having consideration to do that. We're discussing it with the city manager, and it'll be something will be coming to the city. Yes. No, it's a great idea. Could I use 10, 20, 30, 40 new officers? I can get them to do some work. Will it make us safe? It could. But the biggest thing, do we have the cop in the right spot? And that's why we have the use of technology, the reviewing statistical information. But can more officers help? Yeah, it is. We are considering that possibility. But one more thing is, when we have good programs in the city where the community gets together and does things. It's like Mayor Talt was talking about enjoying the city and getting to know everyone in the city, having events at Lacey Park. And that's why we have National Night Out. How many people here have been to our National Night Out event? August 2nd. All right, thank you. I don't see everyone's hand coming up. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing y'all. That's also helps. That is also good.
The question was, do you recommend the doorbell cameras?
I do. I have one. And I use it frequently. Most of the time to scare my wife. But the other thing is we've gone back and forth with somebody who walked up to the door and kept asking questions and looking around. And we're saying, hey, I'm gonna let my dogs out on you right now if you don't get off my property. Remember, you don't have to be nice. You can talk through it, and I like them. I think they're good things. Yes.
The decoy packages, is that it still happening? And is that a safe thing to do? Because it feels like we're putting people in compromising and unsafe situations.
The question was, is there still talk about you doing a decoy package program at people's houses? And is that safe to do? Because it feels like it's bringing unwanted attention to residents' homes.
I understand your concern. We do use them. We actually have 2 or 3 tracking devices. What we do is we put them in a box that contains a something over $950. And we don't put it necessarily inside someone's house, although Arcadia does that all the time. They work with a resident who's willing to have a laptop computer or some other something else that is of that value, high value, that if someone wants to break in, they would take it and we'd be able to track them. We don't do it with people right there. We don't put anyone in a dangerous situation. No one would know that a house has a tracking device inside a laptop computer. We don't say anything to anybody. So there's that anonymity that makes it a little more safe. We wouldn't do anything without conferring with the person we're going to work with. We may even leave a leaf blower on a city truck that doesn't have any decals parked at the curb and see if they take it. So we make sure it's safe. We don't put people in danger. One more here, sir.
Police department to be supportive of homeowners that live in a cul-de-sac and would like to gate that cul-de-sac. Because I don't know how many cul-de-sacs are in the city, but I live, as you know, I live on Oak Lane, and our neighbors would like to put a gate up. We would like to. It's a small cul-de-sac. I called the city. I talked to Mr. Figueroa, I think his name is, and he said, "Well, I don't think we can do that because if you do that, then that means that your street would become a private street, and you would have to take responsibility for the maintenance of the street." And I just think that's unfair, because my feeling is if we could help you stop people from casing the neighborhood by coming through the cul-de-sac all the time, why wouldn't the city be supportive of the neighbors paying for the cul-de-sac to be gated? Well, the fire department, they have to. So that's police and all.
I'm going to summarize that. The question was, how do residents obtain PD support in gating off a cul-de-sac, which would prevent people from being able to case their homes?
You spoke to the right person, Cedar Figueroa. If they were to proceed with it, based upon, I'm sure city council would be involved. And if at some point they said, police, what do you think? We would look at the information, study, learn, and make an opinion. Right now, I don't have the information to make an opinion, give you an opinion or give you a good answer. One other.
Have been approached by the neighbors to hire private patrol. They have been talking about it for months. I would much prefer to, use that money to support more police in our city than to pay a private company. But with that said, I just want to also share with everybody about a new product that I have been using with a security company. It's called Night Shield, or Night Guard, actually. And you have to pay for the camera, which is about, I don't remember, maybe 400 or 500 each. For 2 cameras, it's like 600 or something. And then pay $10 a month per camera. And between 11 and in the morning, the security company actually monitors for you, which is very inexpensive. And I had it at my office, and they did call me 4 o'clock in the morning, whatnot, and say somebody walked into the parameters, do you know this person? They called me a few times. So they were actually watching it.
This one wasn't so much a question, but more of a recommendation for a product that's out there called Night Guard that you could potentially see if your security system company has, and they will actually monitor screens of your home during the nighttime hours and contact you if anybody shouldn't be there.
Wendy, thanks. And I think, let me address the first part about patrols or funding more police. If it's your desire that you would like the city to fund more police, or fund more librarians, or fund more public works people, do what you're doing now. Go to a city council meeting. There's a couple city council people here. Talk to them. Come to a public safety commission meeting. Talk about it. Bring it up. If you want to consider a security company to drive by your home, find out what they offer. How often are they going to do it? What are they going to do if something happens? Do your research again. Sometimes those are good services. A friend of mine owns a company. Up to you. We believe that we give you the best service. But again, as we say, we can't be everywhere all the time. As a security company, can't be everywhere all the time. As far as new products, I heard the discussion about that a couple of weeks ago, about that camera system. And I heard this again tonight. And again, evaluate the product. What does it do? What doesn't it do? One of the important things when you're considering an alarm system and when you're using it, is the connection good? Is it going to be consistent, connected, and you're going to have the ability to talk to your alarm company? If you travel, some of you travel quite a bit. When you're on top in an aircraft, when you're overseas, you may not receive a Wi-Fi signal. You may not receive an email or a text. So not everything is perfect. Not everything is foolproof. So you've got to weigh it, do that yes, no list on a piece of paper and figure out what you want to spend your money on. But all good suggestions. One more question on this side. Yes, sir.
Recommended case of emergency, call 911. What if I call the department directly?
Well, clue you in on a big surprise.
The question was that the recommendation was to report a crime, call 911, but isn't it quicker to call the police department directly?
Same operator that picks up the business line, same person that picks up 911. However, we're required to pick up a 911 call first. So a 911 call will always be answered. The operator will get off the air as a dispatcher, stop talking, pick up the 911 call. They will leave the desk and pick up that 911 call.
The
What-
question was, how do you know if it's a San Marino resident versus someone calling from downtown LA?
When a call comes from a cell phone, probably what you're referring to. Cell phones pick up signals based upon triangulation of cell phone towers. Some of you who live on the north side of the city, you may, let's say you're driving on Virginia coming up in Arden. You may pick up a cell tower if there's a 911 call. That's in Pasadena, and that's the strongest signal. That 911 call may go to Pasadena. It depends upon your location. If it goes to Pasadena, it comes right back to us. They call us right back. Hope that helps. One more question from this side, and then we're done. And then we'll be sticking around if you have questions. No questions? I want to, first of all, thank you all for coming out. I mean, this is a big step. This is a first big step that you want to work, you want to be a partner, you want to be a good team. And there's some of you that always come out for these meetings, and I really appreciate seeing those same faces. So thank you very much. Pass along what you have. Contact any one of us if you have a question. Again, we're not going to tell you anything specific about crimes we're investigating, but we'll give you general information. Look for Jerry Bestfitch putting out information about neighborhood watch groups. Please get the urge to join one, to talk to us. We look forward to seeing you at any other event. If you have other suggestions or questions, you can email us anytime and we'll talk to you. Thank you all.
So those are our presentations for the night. I'm just sending things for everybody on Zoom and anybody for interpretation. Again, that email address is police@smpd.us if you need follow up and weird questions. Thank you.
Presentation.